Number of the day, 5th of August, 18.4 billion is the number in US dollars, Francis heard. And we've always wondered what AI costs. Now we're getting a sense from SpaceX.
Yes, this is what SpaceX spent in just one quarter, a quarter of a year, 18.4 billion US dollars. So now SpaceX has released results, which is very interesting for people because remember, it only became a publicly listed company in June. So now we're getting some insight into the books of SpaceX. Now, their revenue is going up. So they're making more money on rockets, on Starlink. Starlink is actually the most profitable part. The only profitable part of SpaceX is Starlink around the satellites. Revenue for a year is nearly 8 billion US dollars. But then you spend in just one quarter $18.4 billion, and mostly this is on AI. So SpaceX, even though it's doing better than expected, it's still reporting a loss. And even though that loss is even better than expected, people are concerned, investors are concerned, and the share price is down before the markets open. We'll see what SpaceX does, but the share price was down. And this is a little theme across markets. How much are these tech companies spending on AI? And is it going to be worth it in the end? Nobody can answer that question.
This is the problem because you've got to put the money into the AI to understand what the AI can do and if it's actually going to be profitable in the end. Because it's not only SpaceX that's been struggling with this. We've seen issues with Microsoft. We've seen issues with Ford. They plow the money into AI and then have to almost sort of start backtracking as well. So it's difficult, I think, for shareholders to try and understand what this is at the end.
And Elon Musk and SpaceX are not backtracking. They have said we have to spend, which makes sense, right? If you're going to get ahead of the curve in terms of the AI models and you have to spend now, and then you will have this huge advantage going forward. So they have said that the company will only stop making cash in 2037 or something like that. So we're looking at 10 years down the line, but people are still investing because the long-term idea here is that there's an AI company, XAI, is part of SpaceX. So that could explode. Then there's the rocket business, and they've got big deals with NASA, but still it's loss-making because you're also spending a lot on trying to make these rockets that can return to Earth and one day take people on little jaunts in the sky, which Elon Musk has said is where they're going. And then you have Starlink, which is already bringing in profits also for the US government, using the services and customers around the world, not South Africa.
Not South Africa. I was about to say, not happening here, of course. And it's unusual when you hear how people are commenting about this, especially those in the AI space, because that return you're talking about, they're going to start making money, but only years from now. And because we're talking about AI, people seem to think, well, because it's AI, it needs to be an instant return. But if you think about how any company, any business that's pursuing a new product, there's R&D, there's research and development, there's money that goes into it. Before, in the old days, it came off the factory line. But people aren't seemingly understanding what the future is of AI because they can't see anything happening now.
Yeah, and it's confusing. So I can tell you, Old Mutual has also done sort of a wrap of markets looking at what is happening with AI, which is really interesting. But I looked at one of their pictures and it's interesting. Yes, the whole industrial revolution. And remember, some people are saying, like the Standard Bank chief economist, that this could be like the spinning jenny. So people used to make clothes at home. The spinning jenny came. The next thing, the world changed completely. That was the Industrial Revolution. And it had good effects and bad effects. Charles Dickens writes about people working their lives away in factories all of a sudden. But our way of life was uplifted on a global scale. So maybe it's like that. But then they had a picture of cars being made. So originally you had to build the the line, what's it called, where the cars basically, the assembly plant.
The assembly plants.
Once you've got the assembly plant and everything's in place, you can start assembling en masse, but there's still jobs and there's still
someone
that
has
plant.
to do it. Yes.
And there's machinery and it's got to be fixed and things. Now you're kind of building AI models that have to learn how to build cars. And then they will go and build the cars. But yeah, it's a learning curve, and that's what you're paying for. And then those cars will be built at incredibly cheap cost in future. And Elon Musk talks about a world where there is an abundance of things because everything is so cheap, because everything can be made cheaply. But first you've got to build the intelligence, the robots that are going to build the cars.
And I suppose you could bring in, and this has been discussed before, the Musk effect. Because it's Elon Musk, and he's saying, and he's obviously spending the money on this, if he believes in this, and he's often referred to as the sort of godfather of AI and technology, which is, yes, it sounds like a lot of money, spending $18.4 billion US dollars, but he obviously sees the value in it. And because Musk sees the value in it, I think a lot of people are willing to run that line with him until they are eventually profitable, just because it's Elon Musk.
Yes. So Elon Musk, SpaceX became a publicly listed company in June. It was the biggest launch of a company ever in history, the biggest IPO. But having said that, it's a roller coaster because the sentiment keeps on changing. And you would think market people just wouldn't follow Musk, right? They think for themselves. But what we've seen with SpaceX is it went up, then it crashed. It went down 50% from the peak. It's now down about a fifth from that IPO. So not too bad, but it's significantly lower than that initial public offering. And it's because people are betting on, like you say, something, a hope, a dream.
Yeah, a wing and a prayer.
A wing and a prayer, but there's some real logic behind it. And Musk said today, or yesterday, American time, in fact, that they're looking at a city on the moon one day. SpaceX wants to be involved in that. Who owns the moon is my question. Who's gonna put a flag on the moon and say, I own the moon? I don't know if it's Elon Musk should be allowed to
interesting
do that.
You bring it up because I know we're talking about the SpaceX shares here, but interestingly enough, because you talk about wanting to put a city on the moon, well, it looks like SpaceX has a piece of the company, literally, in this case, on the moon already. I don't know if you guys saw this, but what happened earlier today, part of the Falcon 9 rockets, which we know is part of SpaceX, the upper stage of this rocket has seemingly accidentally crashed into the moon. So what happened was the rocket went up. It was obviously the stage in space was shed and it floated off into space. And by some miracle, it has managed to collide with the one object close enough to Earth in the sky.
So they were trying to miss the moon.
Well, this is the conspiracy theorists coming at.
And they hit the moon.
Yeah, you had one job. Don't hit the moon. And they managed you managed to find the moon. So SpaceX is already technically on the moon.
Maybe they're little sensors or something doing things for SpaceX there. All right, so we'll follow this. I can tell you that this is playing out hugely on American markets. Last week, the NASDAQ, which tracks most of the tech companies, was down almost 10%. Everybody was scared about AI spending or overspending. And suddenly Apple was in vogue because Apple hasn't spent like the other tech companies. But now it's all back up, record highs, optimism again. The unfortunate part for me, let me end it here, Gareth, is that we don't even have AI companies on the JSE that we can track these ups and downs. The JSE is now acting very differently from the US market because we're being influenced by what happens with gold and platinum, the mining sector. But I wish we had more of these AI companies to watch locally. Right now, they're all overseas. They're very volatile. And SpaceX, yes, reporting better than expected revenue. But if you minus the expenses, it's not making a profit, it's making a loss. And the number of the day was the expenditure on CapEx, mostly AI, $18.4 billion US in just a quarter of a year.